Join us this week as I visit some old and new patients at the zoo, we move anchor once again, and Joel gets to work regassing the fridge.
So we've changed to anchorage again a couple days ago, and after the past few nights I've been hearing some strange noises with the chain, and it sounds like our chain is rubbing on somebody else's chain. And we had a nice fellow from another boat come over and say that he was anchored in this exact spot, and there was a bit of a squall that came up, and this large boat in front of us here actually has two very large anchors and lots of chain out, so it swings around quite a bit. And I'm pretty sure our chain is, when the low tide comes, we actually are rubbing on their chain. So we're gonna turn the motor on, pick the anchor up again, and try and find a new, more suitable spot for us. But the anchorage is a little bit interesting because there's mooring balls, and then some people have 50 meters of chain out, and other people have 35 meters of chain out. So it's this kind of cat and mouse game where you set your anchor and then you sit for a little bit, and if it's pretty good for a few days, you might find that it's alright, but then you might find that it's not alright and you have to change again. So we'll keep practicing our anchoring, and the weather's nice and calm and still today, and luckily a lot of the boats are still kind of pointing in the same direction, so we can get an idea of where people are pointing, where their anchors are set.
Before pulling up the chain, Joel decided to jump in and dive on the anchor to investigate. I always get really nervous when he does this.
So when I grab the chain and start pulling, because I can't see, so I have to pull on the chain.
Yeah.
But it's like my arm, I'm this deep into the silt.
I don't think you're gonna be able to find it diving.
No, it's disgusting, I can't do it.
With that, Joel started pulling up the chain, and I kept my fingers crossed we weren't fouled on the big guy's anchor. Thankfully, we came up clean other than a ton of mud. In true Panamanian style, the weather of course decided to change. It's getting very dark out there. Big black skies started forming. So far the anchor is holding beautifully, and although the wind and waves are picked up, you can already see rays of sunshine starting to shine, and the dark clouds are moving off. So hopefully it'll be a good night in our new spot, far away from other boats, especially that big fella with all the anchors. Good job, Joel. I was then off to the zoo to offer my advice on a striped owl that had been hit by a car 2 weeks previously. There was also a few new faces at the clinic, including Booba, a 10-week-old orphan jaguarundi, a small wild cat native to Central America. They are strange-looking cats with flat faces and rounded ears, but he is oh so cute. There were also some more primates that had been pets, including this beautiful Jeffries Tamarund and poor little Rolly. Rolly really broke my heart, as she lived with her family for 8 years before they decided they didn't want her anymore. She was quite depressed when she first came, often refusing to eat, but the staff are slowly winning her over, and she is improving each day. Cases like Rolly really emphasize why wild animals shouldn't be kept as pets. Although she is physically unharmed, her emotional scars run very deep. But for some good news, I also caught up with Rio, the macaw who'd been pulling out his own feathers. He is like a different bird now. The training has made such a difference to him. He's very mischievous and has a lot of personality. We then moved on to our striped owl patient. The x-rays showed a severe fracture in the left wing, and the only option was to set up for surgery and investigate our repair options. We provided gas anesthesia, but the zoo's machine is really old, so we also had to use injectable medications. This is not very commonly done in Australian hospitals, so I learnt something new too. I first examined the right wing, as this helps me decide how to perform a fracture repair on the other side. You can see how flexible the wing is and how long it is. The left wing, on the other hand, has no flexibility in the elbow joint, and the fracture has shortened the wing considerably. The bone was also exposed. A little bit of tape helps keep the pesky feathers out of the surgery site, and we then prepared the wing to reduce the risk of infection. So I'm going to try and explain the surgery I just did. So this owl actually had a fracture across here. So these two bones that are meant to join just above the elbow were actually sitting down here and exposed. So this leaves him very open to infection, and it also means that the bone was trying to heal around the joint, which means it can't move, and it creates a lot of pain every time he tries to move. So I had to loosen all these attachments, and actually push the bone back up into its rightful place, and then place a pin through the joint, through this tiny little end of the bone that existed, and up through the remainder of the bone. So it was very difficult. I had to actually remove pieces of bone, and it really wasn't an ideal surgery. So the main risk now is that it could be infected, so he's going to be on antibiotics, but even with antibiotics, bone infection is very difficult to treat. And the other risk is that this joint will still fuse, in which case he's not going to be able to fly, because he's not going to be able to move this joint like he should for flight. But ultimately only time will tell, and I think we've given him the best chance we can. I think it's very, very slim chance this owl is going to be releasable with the injury he has, but I'm hoping we can at least make him comfortable in captivity, where he can move around a cage nicely and be well balanced and things like that. So we'll see how things go over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully I can follow up with the vets here and find out how it's all going. Before recovering our little friend, I placed a bandage which will help prevent movement of the joint. This is extremely important, since the spinal needle I used to pin the bones crosses the joint. While we were finishing up, the vets also shared some really cool new developments with me. So we just finished surgery on our little owl friend. He's recovering well. Diren and Bernardo are actually on their way to a meeting with the zoo director, and they have a huge written up thing on enrichment calendars for the big cats, the ocelots and the macaws, and they've just enrolled in a new program that gives them objectives to meet over 5 years to make the zoo bigger and better and get some accreditation, and it's really, really awesome. They're making some really big, exciting changes. It's amazing to know that with your support we've helped to make a difference for the zoo. Thankfully, our little owl recovered well in his little owl burrito, and as of the time of recording, he was doing really well.
So our good friend George on another boat near us, he's a pretty handy fella, and he came over. We've been having a little issue with our refrigeration system. So it's been running constantly, hasn't been cycling on and off, and I was suspecting that it was low on refrigerant, low on the gas. So he came over with his bottle of refrigerant here, rather large bottle, and also his gauges here that we've got running into the suction line on the low pressure side of the compressor in the back there. And so we've got gas going in, and we're doing a simple method where we just put gas in it, and it's a slow method, but we put a little bit of gas in over time to see how the evaporating plate here, this big white unit, once it starts frosting over, we want to get a bit of ice on probably 95 to 100% of the plate, and we'll keep adding gas until this that line right there that feeds back to the compressor starts to frost over. Once that frosts over, we should be in the ballpark of the correct amount of gas.
This entire process actually took 3 days and involved a lot of monitoring pressure gauges, and Joel also had some fun fixing the wiring at the back of the unit.
Alright, blue is negative. Brown is positive.
But now our drinks are ice cold and the fridge is cycling, making it much more energy efficient. Join us next episode as we get cracking on fixing the windlass and have some fun wrestling locals with the Saljohanna crew. Joel's parents also arrive in town, and until next time, stay chuffed everybody.